Welcome to Opportunity Minded, a series for enterprise leaders, corporate strategists, and forward thinkers like you who want to drive business growth. Each episode focuses on a distinct strategic approach to help you unlock opportunities with actionable insights. I'm Jessica, a producer at Euromonitor International, and today we're thrilled to have Jana Rude, one of our senior insight managers, join us. Jana oversees global consumer research at Euromonitor, offering clients insights on consumer lifestyles, income, expenditure, population, and households. In this episode, we'll discuss how high-quality data and thoughtful market research helps you with consumer segmentation. So, Jana, again, thank you for joining us today. I wanted to start off with a little bit of a personal question. Don't worry, not too personal. But I was wondering if you've ever realized that you were part of a consumer segment that you didn't expect to be in. I know I have, so if you'd like, I can share mine first.
Yes, please.
Okay. So when I was shopping for a house, the one thing I said was that I didn't want to do any work or construction on a house. And then we bought a 100-year-old condo, and now I spend all of my weekends repairing plaster and just wandering around the home repair store like I'm turning into my dad. How about you?
Yeah, I didn't. I don't have this experience, but I think that kind of happens a lot, right? People make quick assumptions about others or about themselves, but the reality can be totally different. So my story is a bit different about assumptions. The why population made about me, or more my friends made about me. Uh, it comes from my recent school reunion, and it's about music. My love for bluegrass, that really energetic, entertaining kind of opposite of classical music. And just for the context, I have been to classical music most of my life. I went to music school. I played classical piano, sang in choir church for 8 or 9 years. So, of course, in that school reunion, people who knew me back then assumed that I'm still very much defined by classics. But at the same time, they're very surprised to find out that now I'm a huge bluegrass fan. All those acoustic guitars, banjos, mandolins, fiddles, listening to different artists like Billy Strings or going to festivals. So that is what I do on my free time. So uh, this story for me was a bit of kind of a reminder that we often put people into boxes based on what we think we know. And in common life, sometimes it works. It's good, but in business, that kind of guessing doesn't really work. If you are segmenting consumers, it's not about assumptions. It has to be backed by data. Otherwise, this is it basically shooting in the twilight, and it can become very expensive.
Yeah, I mean, a home repair store probably wouldn't look at me and think like, "That's our girl," but I'm there, like, every weekend just kinda wandering around looking for new projects, so if you're listening, I'm your girl. So let's start this all off by getting some definitions out on the table. What is consumer segmentation?
Well, segmentation is a key market research tool that basically helps businesses understand who are their clients or who are their prospect clients and who they really want to connect with. So, in essence, it's a quantitative market research tool. Well, basically, it can be quantitative or qualitative, but we at Euromonitor, we sort of trust big data a lot. So, the segmentation we always are discussing is always backed by quantitative sources like statistics or surveys or other sources. Just to give you an example, I like to think about segmentation like creating a, let's say, wedding seating chart. If your goal for everyone is to have good time, and naturally, usually in weddings, your goal is for everybody to have fun, one would naturally create a seating chart that groups people who get along, who can have fun together, right? Probably wouldn't sit your granny next to the, I don't know, rock guitarist from your wild university days, unless your granny is into that, of course.
Right.
But in essence, you would try to answer two questions: who your guests are and what are their preferences. In business segmentation, we have additional layer. We also try to answer the question how the determined segments can be reached effectively, can be targeted effectively.
Okay, so can you clarify, because I've heard it referred to a couple of different ways, and you just spoke about targeting a little bit as well. So we've got consumer segmentation, audience targeting. Are all of these the same thing, or are there differences?
I would say that they are very similar, and more often than not, those are the same consumers, those are the same people. But sometimes there are some differences. For example, consumer segmentation is more narrowly focused on those who are or who might be customers, and basically answers question who will or could buy from you. Like let's say a fitness enthusiast who buy running shoes every 6 months. We know that those consumers are looking for shoes, they are buying shoes every 6 months, and these people are likely to buy in the future, right? When speaking about audience segmentation, it is a little bit broader perspective on all individuals who interact with a brand, with a company, which often include non-buyers, maybe enthusiasts like fitness enthusiasts or general followers. So audience segmentation tries to answer a little bit different question: who engages in any way with the brand or with the company. But like I said, most often than not, those two groups, two segmentation types, they coincide.
Okay. So we are talking today specifically about that consumer segmentation. How do you build a consumer segment? What sorts of data go into this?
It's more or less a mix of data. Usually, we distinguish demographic as one of the core ones. In demographic, that is population level data, like population by age, which is very popular, by gender, by urbanization level. Maybe less used by our clients, but very interesting is population by language, by religion, by ethnicity or race, which are very different in some countries and some geographies. Then we have another group, which we call socioeconomic segmentation, like different groups defined by their income or wealth levels, by different spending patterns or equally saving patterns too. And then we have behavioral or psychographic segmentation, basically grouping consumers by their needs, values, preferences, and of course, behaviors.
Okay. What about data sources? Where do these things come from?
Oh, yeah, I love good sources questions. Thanks for that. Data really comes from different sources in all shapes, sizes. And I'd say there are two main or two big buckets to think about when thinking about data sources. So there is first internal data, the data or stuff that you get from business operations, from within the business, and that type of data is great for showing what's happening right now with current customers, current consumers. Then we have the second big bucket, which is external data from providers like ourselves, like Euromonitor, which gives businesses much wider view. So this data is good because it pulls insights from lots of different sources across different countries, different regions, across different categories. And that exactly helps businesses spot bigger trends or plan for what's coming next. Um, the magic, I think, lies in bringing both of those types together. And that's when you get the full picture, the most granular picture.
I'm interested in knowing more about the business impact of consumer segmentation. How could this influence a brand's bottom line or I don't, maybe even brand perception?
Really knowing your consumers is the literally the only way to offer something that actually hits the mark. So if you speak to everyone, you often end up with generic messages, with basically connecting with everybody, and that means connecting with no one, and that also means wasting time and budget along the way. But when segmentation is done properly, when segmentation is done well, the spending of the company is smart, it's focused, it's effective, and then consequently, in the end, brands can get better financial results, stronger intangible assets like brand and brand strength and higher engagement too.
Mm. So that's why you don't seat Granny next to the guitar player at your wedding. I see.
Right.
So let's talk about when people should look at their consumer segments.
Well, that's an interesting question. I I don't really think there is just one perfect moment to start segmentation. It's more of an ongoing process. Market shifts, consumers change, business evolves from within and externally. So it kind of makes sense to keep revisiting and refining who brands or who companies are targeting again and again. And segmentation per se, it's not just a nice to have. According to our recent Voice of the Industry survey, nearly half of the businesses said that targeting new consumer segments is one of their top growth strategies for medium to long term growth. So it's clearly a big focus for the planning.
What kind of planning?
Well, whatever whatever you plan, be it strategy, be it growth or product development, operations, marketing, communications, business is always really planning around customers or around consumers, be it existing or prospects. So this kind of tool, this kind of market research tool, is incorporated in any kind of planning. um, some say that often segmentation is more pronounced or more proactive when companies are developing or launching a new product, or, for example, entering a new geography, new market, or if they see that client engagement is slipping. But like I said, segmentation should be a kind of marathon, not a sprint kind of exercise.
So that's why looking at consumer data and insights is crucial as part of that ongoing process.
Right. You'd use passport data, for example, to look at the overall consumer landscape. And by landscape, I mean demographics, population data, socioeconomic factors, like I said, consumer financials, income expenditure, as well as consumer behavior. Then, let's say we would be looking for new segments. Then company can determine whether there are consumers they're missing in the current market of operation, or whether there's different market that companies would like to explore and invest in. And yeah, once you know that, once company knows that, uh, it should be repeated. The process should be repeated for the most promising segments again.
Okay, so we're going to see what all of that looks like in practice in a little bit. But before we get to that, do you have any words of warning for our audience? What could go wrong here?
Yeah, I was talking a little bit in the first place about assuming. So my main warning is simply don't assume, because assuming is, just like gambling without data. Those thoughts, those assumptions, the things that you think those are just an opinions, and no business can afford to make decisions on opinions, on guesswork.
Yeah, and that seems like it could be a really easy trap to fall into if, say, you were looking at just one type of data, maybe just your internal data by itself.
Yeah, I mean, internal data is valuable. I mean, it tells you
Yeah.
exactly where you stand today, where the company is now. But like you say, it's also a trap, since it tells little about the context. It tells little about tomorrow. So for growth opportunities, companies really need to look forward. They need to focus on the future and emerging trends, big picture, future data, and not just this current snapshot.
Can you explain what that big picture means?
Well, when we speak about big picture, it's usually demographic data, socioeconomic metrics, also large and representative behavioral studies. Also, maybe it will kind of sound boring, but methodology plays a huge part in defining the quality of big picture, and by that, it basically defines the quality of future decisions. So when we are talking about big picture and when we're talking about quality of the data, usually we think about trustworthiness of the sources, about comparability of the sources and comparability of the ultimate data points. We are also always considering careful modeling for building forecasts. And I understand that all this might sound a bit geeky, but if data quality is not ensured, then it's like I said, it's just an opinion. And yeah, I'm really proud to say that we research and produce cross-comparable consumer data for over 100 markets, and with forecast till 2040.
2040 seems like a long time from now, but it'll probably be here pretty quick, hopefully. Is there anything else? Any other words of warning?
Yeah, I would also say that diversity matters, especially when it comes to data. The more variety data the company has, the stronger are the insights. Naturally, what you put in is that what you get. So at Euromonitor, we bring together solid stats from different sources, from economies and consumers passport. We have national statistics. We layer in insights from voice of the consumer surveys. Again, it's a different method. We also add industry claims. We add even industrial data into our insights and thought leadership pieces. So that is where real magic happens when you combine it all. That's when different perspectives click, and our clients can get the clearest picture of their market geographically, and of their consumer segments too.
Well, that tees us up perfectly to hear exactly how that magic happens by combining different types of data and insights. When we come back from a quick break, I'll be giving Yana specific scenarios where she'll walk us through exactly how she would approach consumer segmentation for each. Then, after that, Yana will test my knowledge about consumers in different generations with data taken directly from Passport, Euromonitor's market research knowledge hub. Don't miss out. We'll be right back.
Significant shifts in U.S. policies have the potential to undermine global economic growth, affect consumer sentiment, risk higher prices, and disrupt production and distribution networks. But for businesses ready to adapt, opportunities will arise. Bookmark our Trump Policies Hub at Euromonitor.com. With tools, expert advice, and data-driven perspectives, we'll help you navigate the shifting trade landscape with confidence.
Welcome back. Yana, I'm going to walk you through a few different scenarios, different industries, markets, business goals, and you can tell me what sort of data or insights these businesses would use for their consumer segmentation. Are you ready?
Let's roll.
All right, let's start with this one. A retailer wants to align inventory and marketing strategies to stock products that resonate with local preferences.
Okay. So first, I would advise to analyze demographic data, because I'm such a big fan of demographic data, and we have so many cuts of it in passports. So I would suggest looking at population by age, population by language, maybe religion, and even city proper population, just to understand the basic makeup of the consumer market. Next, I would suggest assessing financial indicators like disposable income per household, or we could choose to look at it by capita. Also, interesting metric is consumer expenditure by category, just to see what people can afford and where they are spending. And after that, once we have determined the key target segment, we could dive a bit deeper with behavioral insights using our voice of the consumer surveys, just to understand, consumers' purchasing journey, preferred channels, which product features influence consumers' decisions, and for which they are ready to pay more. I think that would be pretty interesting and important for the retailer.
All right, we'll do a different industry here. A car manufacturer wants to expand market share by appealing to middle class in emerging economies.
Middle class. Well, when we talk about middle class, we usually mean households earning between 75 and 125 of the median income. So, when speaking about middle class, a good starting point is to look at median disposable income per households in certain markets. We have that data for more than 100 markets on Passport. At the same time, I would compare the number of households and what share they represent of all households in specific geography, just to see how important, how significant is the middle class in the whole pool of the households in specific market. And we had actually this example recently where we looked at the median incomes and the differences across emerging economies. And in fact, the highest median incomes among emerging economies were found in Middle East, places like United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Kuwait. But what was unexpected and what was especially interesting for me, for my region, was that Poland actually ranked fifth on that list. And it also landed in the top 20 when it came to the number of middle class households, because apparently 1 in 3 of the Polish households is middle class. So, what I'm getting at is that while Poland doesn't match the scale markets like China, India, Indonesia, because those are very populous markets, naturally they have a higher numbers of middle class households. This country, Poland, still stands out as one of the strongest and most valuable cases for companies interested in targeting middle class, specifically in emerging economies.
Oh, that is a perfect example of using data and insights to uncover opportunities. All right, here's one that might be at the top of our audience's mind. A beverage company wants to understand the impact of upcoming regulatory changes on consumption and spending patterns across socioeconomic classes. Any idea what we could use there?
Huh. Um, well, these days, when we talk about regulatory changes, tariffs are usually top of mind, right?
Sure.
And the real question here is, how do different income groups respond to regulatory changes, including tariffs? And that's exactly where our one of the top of our dashboards comes in, spending by income bands dashboard, because it lets you apply different scenarios like total Trump agenda. And let's see, our clients see right away how different households segmented according to income might shift their spending. Maybe, for example, lower income groups would cut back on hotels and catering. Or maybe we would see overall growth in leisure spending among low income group, just because there are more people falling into that income band, right? So that's part of the discussion, but I highly recommend checking out the tool, exploring it. I'm a really big fan of it and of scenario building too.
All right, you're done being quizzed for a minute, and now it's time for you to quiz me. Let's change it up and check my understanding of consumer segmentation with a game. To prep for this opportunity-minded episode, Yana used Passport, our market research knowledge hub, where subscribers get access to thousands of data points and reports to pull consumer data for 2 generations across households, population, income, expenditure, and our Voice of the Consumer Lifestyle Survey 2025. My job will be to guess the generation. You ready to put me to the test?
Yes.
All right, let's get going.
So, fact number 1. Globally, this generation is around 20% of the population, but it is the head of less than 400 million households.
So I'm thinking it's going to be on the younger side of the generations.
Okay, let's get to spending. Consumer expenditure won't quite double for most of this cohort in the next 15 years, but it is projected to grow by a few $1 trillion across all the countries we research.
All right, so maybe millennial or Gen X. More. I need more.
We need more. Okay,
Yes.
more. North America and Australasia are the most promising regions for companies targeting these consumers, at least based on our market potential index.
Leaning more towards millennial now. Do you have more?
I have more.
Okay.
Yeah, so looking at the data from our Voice of the Consumer survey this year, this generation has the highest percentage of surveyed consumers planning to put more money into savings.
Okay. I feel like this is millennials because we got so far behind on our savings, like with the global economic downturn when we were all kind of coming of age. So I'm pretty sure that this is millennials, but I want to hear more if you have it.
I have it. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, another couple of interesting survey stats. Most of these consumers like to try new products and services, and 2 out of 5 want to engage with brands to influence product innovation.
Okay. All right. Still thinking millennials. What else?
Okay, and the last point. This is the most optimistic generation, with around
Oh.
60% believing they'll be happier, healthier, and better off financially in the next 5 years.
Oh no. This
Not
kind of feels,
millennials anymore.
I guess. I don't feel like millennials are very optimistic, but maybe I'm just basing that on an assumption about myself. Because, I mean, I guess how could things be, 5 years from now must be better, right? So I'm gonna stick with millennials. How'd I do?
Close.
Oh
You're close.
no. What is
You're
it?
close. Just younger. Yeah. This is Gen
Oh,
Z.
I should have known. It was the optimism thing. I should have pivoted. All right. I'll shake it off. So we know the next one's probably not Gen Z then. So we got another generation for me.
First fact is that 1 in 5 consumers in Europe is part of this generation in 2025.
Okay, so I do know from editing webinars that the population is aging in Europe. So this leads me to think that it might be one of the older generations. Next, please.
Next one. Households headed by these consumers account for less than a third of all households globally.
Less than a third. Okay, that doesn't change my mind. Next.
Okay. Next one is that in a majority of research markets, at least 80% of households headed by these consumers have internet access.
Have internet access. At least 80%? Oh, geez. Okay. And that's globally. Because I can base these assumptions off of like, well, like my parents have internet and they're baby boomers, but that might not be the case globally. No, I need more.
Okay. Let's get more into financials. Average gross income globally for these consumers is above 40,000 US dollars.
Okay, it's above 40,000 US dollars. Nope. But
Not really. Okay, let's
Yeah.
go on with financials. Consumer spending for this cohort is expected to double by 2040, surpassing 40 trillion US dollars across more than 100 countries we researched.
Okay, so maybe this is my Gen X or millennials.
Maybe.
I'm gonna guess that because my household is Gen X and millennials, so that's really all I'm basing this off of. All right, what's up next?
Yeah, from our survey fielded online in 2025, a majority of these consumers like to find bargains, but 2 in 5 would be willing to pay more for comfortable apparel and footwear.
Comfortable, yes. This is me. This is millennials. Okay.
This is you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one.
Next one, yeah.
Yeah, because you are not right.
Oh no. All right.
Let's go. This generation tends to be loyal. Half of surveyed consumers only buy from companies and brands they completely trust.
Okay. I was playing around in one of the dashboards last week and I did find that there was like our brand loyalists were very different by generation, but I don't remember which generation was more brand loyalist. So that does not help me at all. So can I have another clue, please?
And the last one. The last clue is that North America and Western Europe offer the strongest opportunities for companies targeting these consumers, especially with discretionary goods and services. You must know it.
Right, because that's where I am. This is just like such a good illustration of you cannot assume based on what's closest to you. So I would still think that this was millennials, but we know it's not millennials and it's not Gen Z, so maybe it's Gen X. I'm gonna go with Gen X.
Close, very close, but a little bit older. So
Okay.
that were baby boomers.
It was baby boomers. See, I thought this at the beginning when I was talking about my parents, but then I think what threw me was like increased spending up to 2040 because all I can hear from my parents is like fixed income, fixed income. So, you cannot base your assumptions about your consumer on the things that you know. Like this is why you need to have access to high quality data that can give you that broader view of that consumer segment. So I just assume that everything is millennial because that's what I know. Or maybe I'm just secretly a baby boomer at heart, going to Home Depot. All
Yeah,
right. Well, before we wrap up, if you could give a piece of advice to a company that might be struggling with their consumer segmentation, what would it be?
Oh, okay. Well, usually I advise to dig into companies' own data to see what's worked, what hasn't. But the real magic happens when companies layer in top quality external data. I think national and industry stats, voice of the consumer surveys, claim data, and other sources of data. And that outside perspective fills in the gaps and helps businesses spot opportunities that otherwise might have been missed. So basically, my final advice is to use as much data as you can to see the full picture, to break the audience into clear, meaningful segments, and learn everything you can about each group. Because, well, the more specific you get, the better your message will land.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Opportunity Minded, brought to you by Euromonitor International, the first destination for organizations seeking growth. I'd like to give a big thank you to Yana for sharing her expertise with us today. Yana, can you tell us where people can find out more about your work?
Yeah, we have a consumer trends page under the insight section at euromonitor.com. And also, you can find all the latest research on consumers there, or you can find me on LinkedIn.
Great. Stay connected with us on social media or visit our website to explore more resources and join our community. Until next time, stay opportunity minded. And look into some bluegrass music and maybe walk around a Home Depot aimlessly for a couple hours and pick up sanding blocks that you didn't know you needed.
So you do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.